seen them go as high as maybe 70, maybe 80 psi, but most of the time manufacturer says 60, where they want to be. So what you've done is, in that style pump, the lobe pump, another one, 60. That's the two lobes spinning with a rubber seal. It looks like a blower. I don't know if you've seen that. Like a, and there's two of these. You've dealt with lobe blowers before.
Rotary lobes.
Rotary lobes. So that, and they're in a case, and they're spinning. They don't touch. It's a false diagram here, but basically they're filling these areas with sludge to produce to close it up, but they're limited by pressure. They start to slip. And then when they slip, even though they have a gear behind it, they're built like a rotary lobe blower, but they have a gearbox behind it with two gears running. One shaft runs at X RPM and the other one runs a little slower. Have you guys worked with rotary lobe blowers before? Don't seem to. No, that's not it. Okay. The point is, these have limits on pressure also, because you force too much pressure on them and they start to distort. The rubber distorts, which is a coating over steel, and you start blowing material through. Well, actually stopping material from coming through. So the flow is affected. Double plungers, these diaphragm, I don't know if you've seen those. No? Okay, we won't go there. The only other pump, in my opinion, that's capable of producing the same volume, working at high pressures, is this pump. Progressive cavities. I don't know if you've seen them work, but Warner is a brand.
Right.
What you've got is a screw and a source. It's an actual screw here. And this is the volume, what we talked about, a positive volume. They're moving that volume of material to this stage. And it's usually 2 to 3 stages of openings like this within a cavity. And the cavity has a rubber stator. They call it a rubber stator or stator. It's a steel membrane on the outside, and the rubber is formed to match this rotor. The rotor is actually the rotor is the same on the bottom as on the top. And that's all steel, chrome plated. But why I'm bringing these up is that what they do is they have one stage, or say 35 psi, then you go up to 2 stage, or up to 70 psi. And they can go to 6 to 3, 4, 500 psi. All they're doing is creating more stages. And each stage becomes, it's a valve, essentially, internally. The volume fills up, and each stage gives it more energy. You gotta get more horsepower, obviously, to run it, but it builds up. You can get up to any pressure you want. They're used in this business for sledgehammering, but they're a lot of times industrial that they use for deep wells, oil, mud release from the wells that they bring up. But I have one on sludge, like you have swings here, I think. They also go against swing. I have one in Chicopee that's operating on sludges now from belt press and centrifuge. And the centrifuge is 26%, and the belt press is 20%, I think. But it has certain types of screw feeders, and it goes into the pump. It pushes, the screw feeders push it into the pump. It's doing 200 to 250, 10-inch pipe, pushing sludge probably 100 yards in this pipe. And it comes out as a big turret. But the point is, it's less pressure than they thought, because as you know, well, I won't go, I get caught up, so you have to shut me down sometimes. But if you had a 6-inch pipe, that pressure would be 400 psi. 10-inch pipe, it's down about 250. Maybe how you can save. So you save horsepower and you save any wear and tear. But that pump will get higher pressures, which gets into the sludges where you really want dewatering sludges, and it will feed sludge, but if you're 6-8%, you have those applications. The only two pumps I feel that'll handle heavy solids are these two, no matter what the application. And I'm talking off of GBT, because you know how GBT operators are, they're not here to defend themselves, but they might go 5%, and then they go 7 or 8, depending on the guy, depending on the polymer. So that's something that I just thought I'd throw in as the reason that's here, as another pump. So let me ask you guys a question. You've worked with plungers before. Do you have any questions on them? Any problems with them that you run into, issues over the years, or and that I can kind of hone in on? Or?
Can we discuss maintenance on the centrics and the boilers?
Well, okay, that's easy. These pumps, this pump, singular pump that we have, has a bunch of lubrication points. We got one, we have center, piston, packing. We got out here, we have here, which is also a variable, a manual, and we have a motor. That's it. No, then we have bearings. Obviously, the whole shaft. We have grease. We have various points of lubrication on the unit. We have a motor, which technically for a year is okay. Years ago, I'm not so sure anymore, but based on the next 6 months, we know it'll last a year. Recently, just a side, I just had a lot of trouble with motors. I mean, I get 5 pumps, start them up, everything's fine, leave, get a call, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, motor failed. Bring it to the motor guy, and oh, there's nothing wrong with the motor, but we'll give you a rebuild it. BS, because it's not, most of them are being made, I don't think it's being made mistakes anymore personally. Some of the stuff is coming in, and the quality is there maybe at one time, but if you keep cutting and cutting, you're not going to have the same motors that you had 20 years ago. I mean, you just look at the amount of copper in the old motors and the thickness of the casing and everything else, and they never repeated these things. Some of them get like red hot, but irregardless, they have grease. And technically, in 1 year, that's when you have to start greasing it. If you can get the drains open, you can get out. Because more and more, nobody puts the famous Zerk fitting in anymore. It's saving them a nickel per motor, and I guess that's a lot of money because that's the problem. The bottom has a plug recently I found, and you got to get up there with a special wrench, not a special, but you got to with a socket. It's brass. In the U.S., I don't know why they use brass. Why don't they have an extension? But they don't. And sometimes if underneath the covers and holes there and things over here. So we can check this. I didn't even check this time, but I'm saying I'm giving you insights that you have one on the front and the back. There's 2 bearings there. Next thing you run into is the gearbox. Now this gearbox is not a standard one. It's we already have some on site. It's a variable speed gearbox, so it changes speed by turning a dial or a handle. And it's, let me get this correct, it's a sumo cyclone. Sumotomo. So, I got it. Yes, and it varies speed. It's oil it's got the speed mechanism here and the gear is attached. So the gear has oil, and so does, and this have a reservoir. They both are showing, you have sight glasses, so what's nice about that, you know how much oil's in it at any time and what the color is. So that's liquid lubrication. The next one is your bearings. Those are grease. And those are, on this I think you got 4. Every piston has it. I think there's 4. And then you have, on each piston, you have an oiler. Now this is not an automatic oiler. I mean, technically, it's not feeding more oil in. You've got to, I don't know the best way of this. I've done it one way, and my recommendation is to unscrew it, take it down, put the oil in. Right now, because we don't have an oiler, there is a, drawing this separately, you have glass, not in the middle, with the shaft. There's an opening in the shaft for the oil to go in. And then that is threaded, there's a check valve here. And then it goes down to a needle valve and a glass. So you can see it. It's a glass right here. It's plastic. And then it screws into the top of here. Well, this has a opening like the old, the old oilers that we use, long stem like a teacup. That's the only way you can get it in. Plus, it's got to be, it's higher. It's about maybe a little higher than my hand. So I've been unscrewing it because I don't have it on. I did take it off here, and on the trough, man, you got to take the nut off, and you got to be careful because when you take the nut, that's holding the glass together. But it's filled, and when you fill it, what activates it? The only thing that activates it is the swing of the pendulum or the eccentric that moves. So as the faster you go, the more oil you use. The slower you go, the less oil you use. But it does use it. We used up oil at maximum speed in about an hour. So I don't know how long they're going to run this. Maybe it's going to be continuous operation.
That's why I brought this up. We talked about that. We saw the grease fittings on the Centrics, and that's why I asked you to bring this up. Yeah, but it's right now, we are going to use oil. For a full year, we're going to use oil because warranty is going to be based on oil. If you guys want to switch it after Steve is gone and we're gone, it's one thing, but Steve doesn't recommend grease because grease is a heavier lubricant and it doesn't flow down the eccentrics. So,
unfortunately, the eccentric is a tight area. I mean, you gentlemen have had plungers for a long time,
right.
So you have your wearing capabilities, and you come up, and we're always looking for new information, meaning online and so forth. The moment I check with them and they feel, they're staying with the oil because it's a natural lubricant for them. Plus, the oil, we haven't talked about it, the bottom of the piston, crank, whatever, is oil. There's a bunch of oil in here to lubricate the connector bearing. So if the oil comes down, it obviously fills this up. As the water comes down, the sludge, the other thing is, if sludge gets in here, we do have a drain, but the point is oil sits on the water, on the sludge. So if this thing's building up, this is one of the maintenance areas the operator should be doing this and observing. Is it filling up? If it is, then yeah. The only drain out of here is the threaded point at the bottom of the rod that comes up through with a nut on it, and you can unscrew it. Obviously, everything's got to be shut down, number one, shut off, locked out, whatever. Then you
Pressure release.
unscrew it, and that drops out all the oil and the sludge. But water doesn't work well with bearings, and that's why that particular device will not work well with water. But the oil is convenient because the oil is drips down, will drip down and end up in here, so it's the same oil you're putting in there, so it's miscible to each other. Grease is gonna sit on